Quickly, I'll just jump into the topic for today. I'll just give a small background about Finding XY. So Finding XY is an investment advisory. It's an innovation center and investment advisory firm. We mainly provide project consulting services to development partners, supporting them to implement their projects in Uganda, and support SMEs with business development support. This can be in form of technical assistance or actual trainings through incubation, catalyzer programs, and acceleration programs. But all our work is centered around how to support Ugandan SMEs to enable them to grow. We are implementing include the Uganda Green Enterprise Finance Accelerator, as program supporting green businesses to access financing from commercial banks. What happens is that you go through our catalyzer program, and following that catalyzer program for 6 months, we introduce you to one of our financing partners, a bank, to give you a loan, and then we discount that loan by a third. So if you took out a loan of $100,000 US, we would discount it by so that you only pay back $70,000 US. So a third of that is already like knocked off. That's one of the programs they're doing, and we're doing a number of other programs, working with people, disabled entrepreneurs, doing research components in renewable energy, specifically looking at solar. We have a program that is supporting women to access discounted loans and business development support. So we are happy to connect with you here. So if you have any other questions or need more support, please just always feel free to get in touch with us, and we are happy to connect with you and give you that support. So today we want to talk about the issue of negotiation, and this is going to be really a discussion. And as much as I want to share with you, I also want to learn from you, because you have all been exposed to different scenarios where you are required to present something or get into a contract or get a deal. The fact is, negotiation happens all the time. Negotiation is a constant, whether you are at home speaking to your spouse, or you are speaking to your employees, or you're speaking to someone who is external to your organization. Negotiation happens all the time. And one thing I've found that really helps for my presentation is using pictures. So in front of me here, I have a picture of David and Goliath. Now, for us founders and people who are running businesses, or you are an employee who is reporting to someone, you are always the David. You're the small man looking to get something from the bigger guy, the much more intimidating person, right? And this picture here shows you how we often feel when we're getting into negotiations. And the fact of the matter is, as a founder of your business, you have to ensure that you win at the end of the day, that you get the results that you want at the end of the day. But you have to go through this big guy and see how you can actually work with them to get the things that you want. So this here is an actual portrayal of how we envision ourselves when you're getting into these negotiation situations. But how do you get, so what we want to answer is, if you're faced with this big guy and you're the small guy with a slingshot, how do you knock him down? How do you make sure that this big guy can actually end up trusting you and not hit you with that big hammer of his? That's negotiation. It happens every time when you're asking someone out for a date. It's all negotiation. When you're paying your black tax, it's all negotiation. When you are it just happens all the time. Every situation that you're going to be faced with as a human being is going to require you to negotiate in one way or another. But where we have come short, and recently we're doing a research with domestic solar companies, and one of the feedback we are getting is that a lot of us are losing opportunities to international companies, right? And one of the reasons why we're losing these opportunities is because we don't present ourselves right. We don't do the negotiation right. We are not prepared enough to get the opportunities, so we end up losing out on some of these. And then we blame the people, like, for example, the funders or the international organizations
See how they all
for
happen.
overlooking us and not wanting to work with us. But the fact of the matter is, you weren't ready. You didn't have your slingshot locked in for you to try and get something from this big guy. So those are the things that we want to discuss today. So we want to look at what is it that entrepreneurs need to do, or how can they prepare in situations where they are required to negotiate to get, for me, it's getting some businesses on board. So when you're getting into a negotiation, let me start from this top right corner here where you have these carriers. This picture here shows you multiple carriers. Now, this is how you feel when you're getting into a negotiation, because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what the offering is. You don't know what the outcome is going to be, but you are looking into this blank situation where there are so many of these, you don't know what to make of which. You don't have a direct answer. For example, if I ask you how many carriers are here, it will take you a while to get me the number, right? It will take you a while to get the number. So when you're getting into a negotiation situation, you're getting into a situation of the unknown. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. And these faces here reflect how we feel when you're getting into negotiations, depending on what your background is anyway, right? Sometimes you'll be excited that you want to get into this negotiation. Others will be indifferent, and you can always tell it on somebody's face when they're getting into these meetings, someone who is indifferent. And then you get the nervous type, this guy here, very nervous, very intimidated. You don't know what to do. You don't know how it's going on. You feel like you're out of place. Oh, this guy is so big. Maybe I'm not, I don't qualify. I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to sit on this table to have this discussion. All these people are too big for me. They're so experienced, 30 years in existence. You know, one of those organizations where they introduce themselves and they tell you they've been operating since 1940. And yours just started yesterday, and you're wondering, what the heck am I going to talk to this guy? They've been around for the last 60 years. What can they do? What can I even share with them, right? Then you become this guy who's fully intimidated or just worried. Now, the worrying type are these are the most unprepared. You know, every time you find yourself worried about a particular situation, then it points to your preparation. It means it definitely speaks to the fact that you may not actually be prepared for this particular negotiation. But the underlying fact is, and why I put finding XY here, is that at the end of the day, whatever discussion you're going to have, how you're going to handle this negotiation, whether you are happy, indifferent, fearful, or worried, it's going to affect your business. For me, it will affect finding XY. How I handle my situation is going to be a reflection on XY. So either finding XY is going to grow, or your company is going to grow, or you're actually going to miss out on this opportunity. So and now, a lot of what I have to share here is from stuff that I've read, and much of it is really from my experience because I'm happy to share this information because at least I've been able to build a number of partnerships since we started finding XY. So I just felt it important to share with you guys some of these lessons at least we've picked up over the last 4 years on how to go about some of these interactions. I've really all my life for the last 14 years, I've really grown into this space of getting into people's faces, whether they're friendly or not friendly, to actually get the result that you want from such kinds of meetings. So the first step that I do recommend is to always research about the organization or person that you're going to be talking to. Many of us make this, especially when you're overly confident about your product or service, that you don't invest enough time to understand the person that you're going to be speaking to. This step actually helps you to already learn about what things they actually value. Um, you don't want to be talking about things that are not going to be a reflection to your counterparts. For example, if you speak to a funder, for example, who doesn't value things to do with who values so much things to do with environmental conservation, but then you're talking to them about a mining project that you are actually doing. It's obvious that this person is not going to actually, they will listen to you, but at the end of the day, because your values and what you're trying to do doesn't speak to their values, you will not get what you want uh, at the end of the day. I always prefer to use a basic example, like when you're going out on a date and you've asked someone or someone has asked you out to meet with them. It's and that's like and that is the simplest example I can use. Do you invest time to find out whom you're going to meet or on this particular date? If it's a guy, do they um, what are they interested in? What do they value the most? And I'm going to keep referring to this example because it's the most common negotiation situation that you ever find. You find out what they value, what they're interested in, what they care about. Do you do like a LinkedIn search or a Google search to see do they appear even over the internet? You know, are they? Do you invest time to find out what their goals are? And people nowadays are very open and they share about their lives on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So you can never use it as an excuse going into a meeting and you say that you didn't know whom you're going to. What is that position? What is the title? Um, have you found some articles online that they were referencing to? This always helps you to um, get into a situation where you can actually reflect what this person is feeling or what their ambitions are, and you just play on that when you're introducing yourself and you're about what you actually do. And the second step is to find out about the location of the meeting. Um, it's not that common for us not to, for example, you set up and you have this very meeting coming up and they tell you it's offsite and it's going to be um, in a location that you have never been to, and then you count on your Google Maps to help you get there, which is not actually a bad thing, but it also helps for you just in case Google Maps fails you to do a background check on where you're actually going. It's a small step, but it can throw you off balance if you lose out on things like time uh, for you to uh, for you to get to where you're going. Either you get too late. I remember there's a meeting we are supposed to have with one of with an impact fund, and I counted on getting to Muyenga in 45 minutes. I ended up spending 2 hours on the road crossing from Tyndall to Muyenga. I just didn't, I had forgotten of the traffic that is actually involved for you to cross over Kampala to get to Muyenga. And we had ended up having to postpone that meeting. And I'm a freak at keeping time. So it's a small step, but it can translate into results. The third step I want to share is to get to know who you will be meeting. Get to know who is going to be in this meeting that you're going to have. Do not be taken by surprises. Or by the if someone has given you an appointment, or they have invited you to an online call, always ask them, are you going to be alone in the meeting, or there's going to be someone else? Who else will be in this meeting? Even the other party that in the meeting won't matter. Usually, when you get into a meeting and you find out there are 4 people and you expected one, it's already enough to throw you off balance about what you're going to prepare, because you did expect actually 4 people. It's like an army. And you get into a room and you finally find 4 people instead of one. That can be a shocker. It's already enough to shake you up a little bit, and you already don't know them. You don't know why they are there. It's always important to know who else is going to be in the meeting, so that you have an idea of how to and prepare yourself psychologically on how to present yourself. Now, if you have any questions or anything that you want to throw up, please just feel free to drop that in the chat. I'm happy to reflect it here in the discussion. So this image here, this baby right here, shows you about how you're going to present yourself. So this image here is a reflection sometimes of how we present ourselves, and what we are doing. Either what you're going to present is going to be a mouthful, it won't have a chronological order for someone to understanding. Probably for you, you understand all the stick notes that are here, right? You know what the orange one is speaking to, you know what the blue one is speaking to, or you even know what the white one, the covered one, is actually saying, right? All this information. And it's not uncommon for us to make a mistake to assume that people will understand it anyway, right? All this stuff is jumbled up in your mind. It's there. You have the content, you have the material, you have the product, you have the sentences, you have the aura, you have the chemistry. All this stuff is out there in your mind, right? You know all of it, you know where to place it, right? But it's unlikely that your counterpart is actually going to understand it the way that you actually understand it. It's unlikely that they're going to appreciate it the way you appreciate it, right? So let's talk about presenting. So after those 4 steps, after you quickly preparing yourself and knowing about your counterpart, knowing about where they're located, knowing who else is going to be on this negotiation table, let's talk about how do you actually present your offer. At this point, you are now preparing you're now getting a conversation, to have a conversation with this person. And at this point, I have 3 P's that you should pay attention to. Number 1, again, preparation. I think preparation is one of the most important things that you can ever do when you're getting into a negotiation. And then the next step is packaging your offer. It's not uncommon for us to prepare and then we don't package what we are going to present to the other party well. As an entrepreneur, you live in a very competitive environment, right? The person that you are getting to, it's most likely there are thousands of other people that are also trying to get to them. And most likely they speak the same language as you do. They have the same product, they have the same offering, right? They most likely do the same things as you do. So it's not enough to prepare yourself and prepare the stuff that you want to present to this person. It's also important for you to package what you're going to present to this person. So after you've collected all this information about this person, it's important for you then to package it in the right format that is going to be understandable to your counterpart. Now, why preparation is still very important is that you have to avoid a situation where you're overloading your counterpart, or you're not providing sufficient information. The challenge with overload, especially for passionate entrepreneurs, especially who are into ICT, is that you're going to tell me so many things that I don't even understand. You want something from me, but you're telling me about all this blockchain technology that you've developed and how it's integrated into a C&I system that helps customers to reflect on feedback and quickly make decisions. You are overloading me with a lot of stuff that I actually don't understand, and yet chances are you actually are addressing a need that I have, but I don't understand because you're burying me in a lot of information or underloading the guy. You're doing so much and then you share so little for me to make a decision if I actually uh, want to have this interaction with you further. This, like I shared, package your information to the person that you're going to be presenting to. This can be you creating your profile, creating your proposal, a flyer, a prototype of your product, or something that you can actually demonstrate in this meeting. You should have all these things ready with you. It can be your financial information. Have it ready. If someone is going to start asking you about your runway as a company, don't get stuck into thinking about it and you look ill prepared. Know about the business and package it in a presentable format, in a winning, actually not a presentable format, winning format. Because like I said earlier, there is a lot of competition in our environment. So we will have to package ourselves in the most efficient way. In your presentation, clearly state what you're offering counterpart or the public. Make sure that they're understanding your presentation. I hear the word presumption. Do not leave anything to presumption. Don't let people assume that they are going to understand why you're offering. That is why it's important to look into package to your auditing. And then the last P is to present your offer. Now, after you packaged it, now present the offer. Those small steps make life easy for you. They help to calm the nerves and uh, help you address all these emotions that we looked at here. You move from being this guy, from being this guy to this guy, who is happy and ready to have the interaction going. So now to the most tricky part. Now for this one, I prepared this just um, to help you really understand how important this next part is. Now this is a process of how we hear, right? These are 6 basic steps to how you get to hear something. Right now, these are the steps that you go through to hear me over this call. If you move over the laptop and everything, for my voice to make sense to you, you go through 6 steps. That's amazing, right? Step number 1 is the sound is transferred into your ear canal, and because it's vibrates, and vibrates with the different sounds. These sound vibrations make their way through the ossicles to the cochlea. Sound vibrations make the fluid in the cochlea travel like an ocean wave. Movement of fluid and hair cells at the opposite end transfer high-pitched sound information. The auditory nerve moves signals to the brain where they are then translated into recognizable and meaningful sounds. It is the brain that hears. Now, why is that actually speak, right? This point should highlight to the importance of listening. Many times I've been meetings where you're with people who are so quick to speak, right? Someone is so quick to speak, right? So I want you to always have this imagination of these 6 steps for you in order for you to hear something. And to even understand this should be enough to help you to appreciate the essence of listening. Because where we go wrong in negotiations is at the point of listening. You're going to package your product. You're going to prepare what you're going to present. You've packaged it well in a very presentable way, and then you present it to the people in the room. And then these people in the room have to give you feedback, right? But when they give you this feedback, do you listen to it? Do you take it into context and listen to the facts? Because remember why this is important is that sometimes even when you are disorganized by your nerves, especially, for example, if you get stuck in a meeting with like development partners you've never thought about meeting. Maybe you've been called to the US embassy and you have to present stuff that you're doing, and you're overcome by the aura of the office, or you're stuck in an office with the EU delegate and you're overcome by the aura. Oh, I'm finally here. I've reached, right? There's all this noise that is going on around you, and probably you thinking already of how you're going to pitch or share what you have to offer. You have all this noise going on. So a lot of the times when people, after we have presented what we are offering, we fail to listen. Probably you are still listening to what you presented. Some people do that. I present, but I still stay thinking about what I presented. Did I present it right? Did they hear me? Was that good enough? Oh, mistake. I mispronounced something. I said something wrong. Like you are still stuck in what you actually presented. So listening is very key. And this is the process of listening. So this should point to you how much attention you should actually pay to listening to your counterpart. What do they have to say in return to what I've just shared with them? Listen to them. Don't hear yourself, hear them. Be empathetic at this point and put yourself in their shoes and try and understand where they're coming from. Don't listen to yourself. Actually listen to them with intent. We just share the next slide. So there are 3 main points here that I want to highlight at this point. Listen, and listen intently to your counterpart. That is very, very important. It's very important. It's where we go wrong in a negotiation. Probably you are even ill prepared, right? And this person just likes you as an entrepreneur. Are you able to listen to them, especially when their feedback is not pleasant? I'm seeing something move on social media about Mike Mukula. No, what is that? There's what is it? Some audition that were taking place, and someone said that this person smells. Even when someone actually offends you, right? probably you've presented your product, and this guy said your product is not good enough. Your product is not ready for the market. Uh, your sales are weak. You have a very weak business model. You know, this is some of the feedback you're going to get. Oh, I heard about you guys. You don't have a good reputation. Oh, I heard about, like, a lot of the times the feedback you may actually get good, you're actually going to get is going to be negative. But listen to these people, and by listening, it's going to help you to pay attention to what they have to say, right? And ask the right questions, because when you listen right, you can actually ask the right question and probably even clear out any misunderstanding that you may have, or this person may have about your offering. Now, after you have listened to this person, and for example, if someone is telling you that they have seen what you're offering before and they feel it's not good enough, right? At this point, follow up with what we call probing questions, right? These are open-ended questions that you can use. Probing is a type of questioning used in negotiations. This is you asking the how, the what, the when, the where. For example, ask them, if someone is telling you, I've heard about this and I heard that it wasn't helping people very effectively. Ask them, how do you come about that kind of information? How was your experience like? No, when you ask these questions, they can get into more detail. Maybe their daughter, maybe they had a child who opened up this product and they didn't use it right and they didn't follow the manual, right? So that you don't react without enough information to what somebody is saying. That guy is saying, if you just end up at the point of hearing him say, oh, I've heard about this product and it doesn't do a lot of good, and that is all that you're going to hear, treat it as my product is not good enough, you would have just killed the negotiation right there. Prepare your mind right and just say, okay, let me just focus, listen to this guy and ask him these probing questions, right? It will help you to respond rightly, because if they had a child who opened my product and they didn't follow the manual that I put there, that speaks to something that you can respond to. Maybe then you can clarify that for you to effectively use this product, you have to follow the instructions that have been provided. So prepare to use these probing questions. How was your experience? What prompted you to do this or like that? Who were you with when you're doing it? Or when is the right time for me to share more information? So be prepared to ask these questions. Now, another thing I want to highlight is the why. Now, you have, as much as you have to ask probing questions, you have to be careful how you use your why. Because if you can, avoid using why, because is something is a phrase that can become confrontation, right? When I ask you, for example, if you're telling me I used this product before, if you're getting feedback that I used this product before and it wasn't serving its purpose, and you ask this guy why, right? It's already confrontational. It's like you're saying that I don't trust the information you're saying, right? You're pushing this guy into the defensive. Maybe if you're not sharing, then we can mute, right? The why is for you to not to simply ask why, unless you know how to use that why, right? Because how you use it can end up putting you in a confrontational situation. It's important for you to manage your emotions in discussions, especially that turn confrontational, and focus on the facts. And the only way you can do that is really just listening and listening intently to the people that you're speaking to, and make sure that you are listening to them and not listening to yourself. When you listen to yourself, you just get stuck in the emotions of what you're feeling. But when you intently listen to them and get an interest in what they're trying to put across, they will also get that vibe that actually this person is listening to us. And how you're listening to them is that, for example, if someone is asking you a string of questions, it's giving you a string of feedback. Sometimes you can repeat what they are saying to you. Imagine while you're having a difficult conversation. For example, one of your customers, and they're telling you, yeah, I bought this product from you, but it hasn't been doing right. I took it home, we opened it, and then some things fell out. Everything wasn't intact, and all that kind of stuff. By you repeating some of these statements to this customer, ask ask the probing questions, and then repeat some of these statements to your customer, like asking them, like repeating to them, oh, you say that when you opened it something fell out, right? That's what you say. What actually fell out, you know? It helps them to calm down. You realize that in those situations, even these people will calm down. Now, these things apply whether you are having a good discussion with someone, or it's confrontation, because some negotiations actually are confrontation, especially when someone is trying to prove a point to you, or they're trying to get rattle your nerves and see what you're made of. So these are some of the basic 3 steps that you should always be practiced from my experience when you're getting into a negotiating space. Now, this here is feedback. This picture here speaks to feedback. Now, we all know, if you're running a site, we all know how important it is for you to get these stars. But how do you get these stars? When negotiating, negotiate for the best outcome for your business. After you've collected all the information about your counterpart, go to listen to them, assess the information you have against your own values, right? For example, sometime last year when we come out of COVID, there's an organization that approached us to give us a contract, right? But initially, when they started a contract, it was for a certain amount of money. Now, when we shared our expression of interest to work with them, they they instead engaged us in a negotiation to reduce the money further, right? Now, you just came out of COVID, you actually need the money. It looked like a good thing for us to just just go about with working with these people. But sometimes, okay, there are so many times, and we're going to we'll do a brief breakout room for about 10 minutes in groups and discuss this, because a lot of times I've had people, you've also read people telling you that it's okay to say no, right? You don't have to always say yes, right? But this time I want us to be the ones receiving this no, right? You're getting into this negotiation um, with this organization, and they have said no, right? I just want us to quickly discuss in these breakout rooms, why is it so hard for you to take no for an answer, right? How else can you interpret a no when someone says no to you? Because this example I was giving you, these guys were offered, we applied for 100,000, a contract worth 100,000 US dollars. They came back to us for 39,000 US dollars. So we looked at the scope of work they were giving us, and we said, wow, Wapi, this is a lot of work. We can't do this. So we said no to the 35, and we countered them and said, at least offer us 70,000, double what you're offering. And they said no to us, right? But if someone says no to you, right, and they don't come back to you, how do you interpret that? If you present a product to someone, or you're offering to someone, and they say no to you, right? How do you interpret that, and how do you use that? So I just want us to, Merab is going to quickly send us into some breakout rooms to just discuss that. What does no actually mean to you as a person and an organization? How do you take it, or how can you effectively use a no when it's when it has been said to you? Back to you, Merab.
Okay, I'm going to assign us just in like 15 seconds, and then you click on the button that will appear on your screen.
If I can go now, since I'm live, I have mixed feelings on a no. In my experience, sometimes I feel it means this is not for you, whatever you're pursuing at that moment, or whoever I mean, in the sense that whoever you're trying to pursue this with, this is not the right fit. So sometimes turns out to be a blessing, in that sense that it just says this is not the right thing, or the right moment, or the right partnership, or the right a value package. Other times, in my experience, a no has tested me in the sense of how much do I want it. And so there are moments that I have interpreted it very, I think for me, instinct plays a big part here, to sort of feel, well, if you have said no, if we have counter offers and you have said no and you have gone quiet, that's very loud body language. Whatever we're offering, you're not interested in at the moment, or you're not interested in it enough, period. And perhaps I shouldn't waste the energy of my creative life chasing down that road, or trying to track you down to convince you into a yes, because even if you say yes, you will still be half interested, or not really, so that's my interpretation of that particular situation. But I'm a bit torn, because at the same time, the no, in another instance, I received quite a bit of no's, and I just pushed for it, and kept recrafting by really understanding, well, what do you really want? And it turned out to work out really well for me in that city, or for us as a company in that situation.
Yeah, I think I really agree with you. Sometimes you find a challenge in creating something that you all agree with. For example, what Eddie shared, they've cut the monies he wanted to like a quarter, and even asking for a double, they couldn't. So that could be a very huge challenge in terms of what they want to achieve and what you will input as a partner. So I really agree with you. Sometimes it's really a challenge. But anyway, it's true. Sometimes you just have to say I know and agree to that and go with it. And
Yeah, cool. Thank you. It was fun. It's we also talked about the conflict between how a no is perceived. Sometimes it's a very clear sign that this is perhaps not the right partnership, or this is not the right package of value for this particular person, or the timing of the entire interaction is wrong. And it's also nice to see that and realize, well, what is for us is for us. So a yes is and I guess we also said in these particular moments, we found instinct plays a big part, because sometimes your instinct says, well, it's not for you, or it's not a very good deal, you should leave it alone. And some other times instinct says, nah, we fight for this, and then it becomes a repackaging situation, further conversation, or what do you really want, and then the probing begins, and sometimes it ends up in a very healthy space. But regardless, if if a no is given and there is simply silence, no counter offer, then the body language is very loud. There is really no interest. It's, I feel, of more importance to not simply chase, but to safeguard our own energies. Even if they say yes, you don't want to invest into a haphazard relationship or a half interest relationship. So that we found interesting.
Okay, thank you, Mugaga and Kellen, for sharing. Back to you, Eddie, and your team.
Yeah, I was saying that there's this book that you can also read. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a very nice book on negotiation. I really recommend it. It's a very good book that that can help you, especially for the nitty-gritties, the things that we don't think about when you're having these discussions in negotiation. It's very detailed in helping you do some of that stuff. And I'm so excited, happy to have connected with you all. Back to you, Mara.
Okay, thank you so much, Eddie, for sharing this informative discussion with all of us. I see most of you were requesting for the recording and the presentation. We'll surely share the presentation with you, and the recording, a put together recording, will be shared soon after. And so what you've just attended is a mentorship session, which falls under a program that we have, which is called the Entrepreneurship Institute of Africa, where we mainly support SMEs. So I'm happy to share more information about this program and how we support startups, early stage and growth stage enterprises. So if you're interested, you can still call on the number I just shared. And interesting enough, we have an active call for applications for one of our incubator programs that is for startups